Data has been integral in our growth as a staff because I think a lot of times we look at students, we look at what we're doing, we kind of move along, and it's easy to make assumptions. So it's easy to think, well, gosh, our kids are doing great, or all of our kids, we can lump kids into one giant category. It's pretty typical that a school like Mount Baker, the test scores will improve, and at some point they're going to plateau. What that tells us is that we need to go deeper, and we need to go to a more specific level, student by student. A data carousel is a process that involves all of the staff. The leadership team chooses the most important data for us to look at, and then the staff actually walks through and looks at the data displayed on charts, and they write narrative statements that tell exactly what the data says. And then we look at the strengths and the concerns, and then other questions that we need to ask from more data.
07 bilingual students were at like 5% meeting standard, and in 08 they went down.
I hate to see that. I don't know if that's the same. But I believe it.
Across the board.
Yeah.
There are a couple of ways that we use data carousels to inform instruction. One is to get a global picture of how our students are doing in general, and then to provide data for teachers and staff members to look at that gets into the more fine nuances of how students are doing.
Because every year we do a data carousel, so we take all our test data, we put it up on the posters with all the information, grades, and by strands. So we were looking at a specific strands of probability and statistics, and we were really looking at the statistical part. So we had narrowed it down specifically, and then you just look at your test results.
Let the gaps stay in the same.
Through our data carousel process, we determined that our math scores were flat and that we needed to find out why. So we dug deeper into that data, and the math team then determined that the area of statistics was a very weak area that we could do something about.
What we had to decide was, we can't do this all on our own. And we know that we had a good support from our team, not only our math team, but our school team, that we knew that we could count on them to help in some way.
So our leadership team had an aha that actually if we were able to incorporate that across the curriculum, that would really support our students' learning. The math team collaborated with the content teams and provided themselves as a resource. They did some coaching, and consequently there were a lot of really creative ways that teachers integrated mean, median, mode, and range into their teaching. They wove those into science and into reading, language arts. If you would be willing to incorporate or integrate these statistics in your curriculum, we could really make a difference, we believe. So teachers were open and receptive to go into our classrooms and integrate those strategies.
We only do writing in language arts class, right guys? No. Wait a minute, this is language arts class, so aren't we supposed to just do writing? No. This is where I just want to give you some background. Mrs. T and I got together and we said, we need to do something about this. So I went to her begging and pleading for her to come into my classroom and help out. So here's something that we've been working on. So I'm going to let you take it from there.
So what I'm going to show you here in just a moment is all of the data from all of the classes, not just your class, but second, third, fourth, and sixth period. All of the scores that you got on the rocket plane, here comes the rocket plane, and then the friendship orchard. Remember, you did those two stories and then you made graphs on those two stories. So you've made those graphs already, right? So we're going to skip ahead to the part that's kind of the tough part sometimes, is the analysis of a graph. So take a look at this graph here. Our target said we're going to be comparing two sets of data using a double bar graph. So if this is a double bar graph, what makes it a double bar graph?
That there's two bars there, and one's the total scores of rocket planes, and the other one is total scores of friendship orchard.
What do we call these things that are labeled here? What are these?
There are variables.
They are our variables. I think what blew us away was how many people tried it
very
and were
much so.
excited about doing it. I'm like, woohoo! We got everyone to love math for just a moment. It was great.
We went from a minus, I think it was about a minus 10. When you look at the trend data in that area, students progressing about 5 points the first year, and then we said, this is working, let's try it again.
We saw a statistically significant change in the increase in the number of students making standard in the statistics piece based on the work that we did in the leadership team.
And then we have anecdotal stories from teachers that are exciting about how students reported that they were understanding this so much more. They could do this so much more easily. We were able to respond by doing something to change our instruction in the classroom, and we saw impactful results.